In 1177, Saladin suffered one of the most humiliating defeats of his career. At the Battle of Montgisard, his army was shattered by a force led by a teenage king already consumed by leprosy. The blow was severe, but it did not break him. Saladin was not a man who abandoned his ambitions. He regrouped, rebuilt, and returned. 2 years later, in 1179, he was back. This time, his strategy was not conquest, it was destruction. Advancing from Damascus, Saladin established a forward camp near Banias and unleashed raiding parties across the countryside. Fields were burned, villages were plundered. The devastation reached as far as Sidon. This was deliberate. By stripping the land of crops and resources, Saladin aimed to starve the Frankish population, drain the kingdom's revenue, and slowly bleed its ability to wage war. King Baldwin IV, now 18 and increasingly crippled by his disease, had no choice but to respond. From Tiberias, he marched north with a force of roughly 2,000 cavalry and infantry to confront the threat. At his side rode two of the most powerful men in the kingdom, Raymond III, Count of Tripoli, hardened by decades of war, and Odo of Saint-Amand, the iron-willed Grand Master of the Knights Templar. Their objective was straightforward: find Saladin's raiders, destroy them before the damage became irreversible. From the eastern slopes of the coastal hills, the Crusaders sighted what appeared to be an enemy raiding camp on the plain of Marj Ayyun, near the Litany River. Baldwin ordered the army to descend and attack. The problems revealed themselves almost immediately. As the Frankish host moved downhill, the mounted knights surged ahead. Cavalry and Templars quickly outpaced the infantry, struggling behind them in the summer heat. The cohesion of the army began to unravel before a single blow was struck. At first, fortune seemed to favor them. The Crusaders fell upon a Saracen raiding party and scattered it with ease. Convinced they had caught Saladin's forces unprepared, discipline slackened. Emboldened, the Frankish cavalry pushed forward, occupying the high ground between the Marj Ayyun plain and the Litany River. Behind them, the infantry, exhausted and overheated, stopped to rest. A fatal gap opened in the Crusader formation. The army was now dangerously divided, cavalry at the front, infantry far to the rear, and nothing holding them together. Saladin had been watching from the hills to the east, overlooking the plain below. He had already seen what he needed to see. His main army, a powerful cavalry force numbering perhaps 10,000 men, lay concealed nearby. As the Templars pressed forward in pursuit of the fleeing raiders, they rode headlong into the edge of this hidden host. The engagement was brief and brutal. Overwhelmed, the Templars broke and fled back toward the king's position. That retreat was the signal. Saladin unleashed his cavalry in a ferocious counterstroke, thundering down into the valley. They hit the Crusader army at its weakest point, scattered, overextended, and completely unprepared. Frankish lines collapsed. Isolated knights were cut down before they could regroup. Resistance crumbled under the weight of the assault. In the chaos, Odo of Saint-Amand was surrounded and captured. At the heart of the storm stood Baldwin IV. His leprosy had progressed so far that he could no longer ride without assistance. His hands were wrapped in bandages, unable to grip reins. He guided his horse with his body and his knees alone. As the battle collapsed around him, his horse was killed beneath him, leaving him stranded on foot, blind in one eye, his limbs failing, surrounded by the chaos of a disintegrating army. His household knights did not abandon him. One gave up his own horse so his king could escape. The others formed around Baldwin and cut their way out through the enemy, carving a desperate path through the chaos. What remained of the army fled in scattered groups, many finding refuge behind the walls of nearby Beaufort Castle. The battle was over. It had been a disaster. Saladin seized the momentum immediately. By August 1179, he turned against the newly built Crusader fortress at Jacob's Ford, a strategic position that had long threatened his lines of communication. He besieged it, overwhelmed its defenders, and razed it to the ground. One of the kingdom's most vital strongholds was gone. The captured Odo of Saint-Amand was offered exchange and ransom. He refused. A Templar Grand Master, he declared, could not be ransomed. A Templar's only ransom was his sword and his dagger. He died in a Muslim prison, unbroken and unredeemed. A man whose pride cost him his freedom and his life. The victory at Marj Ayyun restored Saladin's prestige and placed him firmly back on the offensive. But the deeper damage lay elsewhere. The battle had exposed something that could not be fixed. The kingdom's defense rested on a king whose body was failing him. Baldwin IV's leprosy advanced without mercy. Blind, weakened, and increasingly unable to rule, he died in 1185 at just 24 years old. The crown passed to Guy of Lusignan, inexperienced, divisive, and lacking everything Baldwin had earned through years of pain and war. From the miscalculation at Marj Ayyun, through the death of a king, to the rise of an untested successor, the path was already being laid. Within 2 years, Saladin's relentless pressure and this fragile new leadership would collide in a single decisive confrontation, but that was yet to come.